Hello, everybody. Welcome back again to another session of the BUZZ.travel GITF China Summit. My name is Wolfgang Georg Alt. I have the honor to be the China Summit Ambassador, and I'm also the CEO of COTRI, China Outbound Tourism Research Institute. Today, it's my big honor and pleasure to introduce to you a panel and first a presentation which is chaired by Dimitrios Buhalis, and where we have Antonio López de Avila, Eduardo Santander, and Jing as panel members. So the organizers asked me to introduce Dimitrios Buhalis to you, but I think if you have been working in tourism in any way and you have not been sleeping under a stone the last 10 years, I'm sure you came across Dimitrios more than once. He is, as I have seen, the most cited author for hospitality in the world, and the third most cited author for tourism. And he has been publishing an endless number of papers and books and edited books. And he is also, of course, the director of the eTourism Lab and the deputy director of the International Center for Tourism and Hospitality Research at Bournemouth University. And well, he has an endless number of other titles, which I will not go into, but certainly it is a big pleasure for the China Summit to have one of the most prolific experts in the world joining us. And the topic will be smart tourism and the global tourism industry recovery after, well, I don't have to tell you what is the reason, after COVID-19, of course. And so let me briefly also introduce the panelists. So we have Antonio López de Avila Muñoz, who is a co-founder and the CEO of Tourism Data-Driven Solutions and is based in Madrid. And I'm also very happy to welcome Eduardo Santander, who is, I looked this up, Eduardo, since 2012, that's more than 8 years now, that you are the CEO of the European Travel Commission. And also, I think, very important, you are now the chairman of the Tourism Manifesto. And if some good thing comes out of the virus crisis, maybe we will see finally a more developed and pronounced tourism policy in Europe. I hope that this will be one of the results, and I know that Eduardo is working very hard for that. And then, of course, last but certainly not least, I'm very happy to have also a panelist from China. We can welcome Professor Jing, who is the program manager for PolyU X MicroMasters, so a program of Polytechnic University of Hong Kong, and she is responsible for this at the in the beautiful city of Chengdu in Sichuan province, my favorite place in China, I have to say. So so we will start with a short presentation by Dimitrios to set the scene, and then I'm sure we will hear a lot of interesting thoughts and ideas about smart cities and how this concept can help us all to get back on track. So with this, I hand over to Dimitrios, and I wish all of us a fruitful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wolfram. Fantastic to see you, and fantastic to be in a very nice panel with very good friends, Eduardo, Fujin, Antonio, and it's a great pleasure to actually work with all the world in these very peculiar and difficult times to see how we can reignite the tourism industry and how we can help each other in taking things forward. I'd like to share a few screens with you to share a few slides to actually demonstrate some of the developments that they are happening and how we've been dealing with those. Let me go to the beginning of this. So here we are. Okay, so let me share a few slides with you to actually show the impact of COVID and how I can see we are going to go into the next stage of reigniting tourism and bring as many bring our activity back to normality and allow as many people as possible to travel around the world. COVID brought tourism to ground zero, and has been business as unusual for the last few months. A lot of planes have been parked in airports around the world, and it has been impossible for many people to travel. Many countries had closed their borders. And we were expecting a fantastic year where tourism will grow again, and we're going to have a fantastic tourism year. But of course, COVID stopped all of that. I came up early in various industries around the world, and I came up with some strategies that we needed to use during this period to support our communities and to make sure that our communities are healthy and safe in order to be able to restart as soon as possible. You can see the WTO started having a campaign that says stay home today and travel tomorrow. You can see that Greece came up with a till then stay safe. So we were actively discouraging people for traveling for a period of time until we could see how we can manage the pandemic. I came up with some strategies, and the strategies was humanity, being human to each other and support each other, providing solidarity and make sure that society benefited from acts of kindness, bring leadership forward, where leadership in tourism hospitality will support not only our customers but also our employees and our communities, and develop our resilience. Make sure that we are ready for the next day, make sure that we prepare for the next day. And I think one of the things that we learned from COVID is how we're going from me to we. How can we take care of the society, and how we're going to be able to go forward? Now, when we're looking forward, I think it's becoming very evident that it's going to be a new reality, and the past will almost be irrelevant. So we don't need to look at the mirror and what we used in the past, but how we are going to go to the next stage. And this is a very comprehensive strategic response plan where you have got a whole range of different things to do during the crisis, to develop strategies for your human resources, to develop strategies for your money and liquidity, to develop a new operating process that takes care of your safety, security, disinfection, hygiene, the whole range of protocols that came out during this period. Looking to product proposition and re-engineering our process through the procedures, through technology, through big data, redesigning everything we're doing in order to provide personalized and customized products. Looking to the distribution and the pricing and how those things can be changed during the COVID period and afterwards, and also develop a strategy for competitiveness and a destination strategy that takes advantage of smartness, ecosystems, and agility to make sure that everybody is safe and everybody is operating within the protocols that they're required during the COVID period and afterwards. I think one of the critical things is really to look into how we can be COVID ready by having smart protocols, process, ecosystems, and agility to make sure that we can operate safely and bring the whole society together. To do that, we need real-time information and context-based information that's based on location, clientele, space, architecture, service, personnel, process, and business models. All of those things are coming together to bring us to the future. We will not return to the past, we will depart to a new future. And I think a lot of things have happened in the last 9 months, particularly in digitization, because we all learned how to operate digitally and from home rather than going to offices or to operate in different things. And also we learned how we need to operate together and how we can engage together in having a better strategy for the whole industry to work together. some of the critical things is smartness, and smartness depends on networks and the interoperability and interconnectivity of networks, and the Internet of Things and the Internet of Everything that brings together information collected from sensors and then send away to beacons. We need to analyze big data and data analytics, and then use all kinds of information that's available to develop our resilience. And a lot of these things are based on this publication, so you can have a look and read when you've got a little bit of time. And then the other thing is real time. Real time means that we need to have all the contextual information available, and to make sure that we can have decision making in real time, so we can enhance the operations, and we can enhance the value proposition to consumers in real time in their contextual situation. And we're talking here about nowness. Obviously, this has been developed in terms of how can we improve the service and how we can add more value to all the stakeholders that are involved. But in the COVID situation, one of the critical aspects of value is safety. And I think it's really very critical to understand where we are and what we do, and see how we can take safety to the next stage by looking to all the data, including health data and epidemiological data in great detail. I think the future will take us to the new normal, and the new normal, first of all, we need to reignite the tourism industry and the economy at large, and this is happening right now slowly. We need to refocus on what we do and redesign a lot of the process. So in a practical level, a lot of hotels decided not to provide a normal kind of breakfast service, for example, but to give takeaway breakfast, to serve it in a room. So, or to have different kind of ways of dealing with the needs. And ultimately, we need to re-engineer what we do, taking advantage of all the knowledge that we've got during this period, but also understanding all the needs that we need to address. I think we need to plan for the worst and hope for the best. And until we're in a situation where we've got a vaccine, it will be a little bit bumpy ride. But of course, you know, after the storm, and there are always storms, there is a rainbow. And I think we're getting to a situation where we need to cover everybody under the umbrellas for the storm to pass, and make sure that everybody is safe, everybody is healthy. And we also need to start preparing for the rainbow days, where we are going to be able to operate back to normal. Thank you very much. That's my information. You can get in touch with me, or you can see a lot of the research I've been doing and a lot of the resources that I've got. Have a look on buhalis.com. You'll find a lot of videos and a lot of publications if you like to educate yourself further on this area. Thank you. 谢谢 for those of you in China. Okay, I'll stop the presentation here. So we should be back into a panel kind of situation. I hope that you found that informative. Some of you may have seen this before, because we've been doing a lot of seminars and a lot of work together since the pandemic started. But I'd like now to start the conversation by asking Eduardo to share his views and his perspective from a European perspective, particularly, and how the European Travel Commission has been taking a lot of leadership actions, actually, to support the European Commission and everybody else, all the stakeholders, to reignite tourism. Eduardo.
Thank you, Dimitrios. Kalimera, Antonio, hola, buenos días. Ni hao, Fujin. Thank you. It's wonderful to be here with you. Dimitrios, I can but only agree with your presentation. I mean, the situation is not the new normal, it's the new reality. And we're moving, obviously, from a very glorious past, from a very prosperous industry, very margin profit-driven industry that was working until 6 months ago perfectly, with some elephants in the room that I will mention later. But, you know, nobody wanted and was really thinking that will ever stop. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that maybe connecting with the last bit of your presentation, that it's true that it's only in the darkness that you can see the start. than the stars, no? And we are in sort of a very, very difficult period, and not only for big companies, as we see. You've shown pictures of airlines with all the fleet grounded. We've seen obviously a lot of big tour operators practically being saved and being bailed out by states, because it's the only way to survive. But we are talking about also a small and medium-sized enterprises all over the world, but in particular in Europe, where it's 85% of the tourism entrepreneurship. These SMEs are going to be the future of tourism, because those are the ones that are going to be more flexible to adapt to this new reality. And I think that you mentioned two key elements, the key element of digitalization and the element of sustainability. I have to say that as far as I'm concerned, and there's going to be some of Darwinism behind the whole process of restarting the tourism industry. I think you mentioned in your presentation, there's no way to look at the rear mirror and say, okay, we cannot look back and wish that everything is going to be fine again. But it's not going to be fine again. I think the damage is done. And as they say, once you put a nail on a wooden fence, you can remove the nail, but the hole will stay there. So we are gonna not try to fix to remove that nail and put a new one. So we're trying to fix the hole. This is what we have to see. And to fix the hole, we have to think about something that we haven't done in the past very well, which is collaborative strategies. Collaborative strategies. It's a very complex ecosystem. I know Professor Buhalis has done a lot in that respect. But, in the theory, everything is possible. In the practice, it sounds very... I know Antonio has worked, so many years on technology in Spain and globally. And, he knows how difficult it is then to apply all those technologies into the real world, especially when things are working good, because people are not willing to change when everything's fine. Now we have this window of opportunity, but during this window of opportunity, we have to identify who is going to be in good shape to weather the storm and who is not. And this is what I refer to Darwinism. And as hard as it sounds, we're coming from there already. If you think about, and going back to Greece, all somehow, everything brings us back to the Greek civilization. So democracy was invented in Greece, in Europe. The human rights were invented in France, in Europe. And even modern tourism was invented in Europe, UK at that time, in the 19th century. So now I think we have also, and this is what we are doing, coming back to your initial question, what is the European Travel Commission, is that we have to take the leadership and be the first showing best practices, and also trying to explain worst practices too, so that we don't fall in that trap of doing things as they were done in the past. They may have been very successful for decades, if you want, even for centuries, but this is no longer valid. It's no longer valid because we know that COVID will have an end. But we cannot forget other issues, such obviously upcoming recession after COVID, obviously the much even much more important issue of climate change. We look into China for that, and looking at Jing and our colleagues and partners in China, we know that China is going to be probably the first getting out of COVID, and this is what is happening right now. There is a huge appetite for travel again in China, obviously domestically for the time being. But, they are the ones that are going to lead also that technological race in applying that to processes. And this is where that link between Europe and China has been not only reestablished in terms of connections, reestablishing travel, but, in terms of knowledge sharing. And knowledge sharing is here going to be the key. Because if you, going back to my theory of Darwinism, you see that the only communities that survive and thrive are the ones that collaborate. And, in formal evolutionary periods of human beings, we see that those that were able to trade, to exchange knowledge, to change seeds for, meat or whatever, were the ones that then eventually mixed and then created, the communities that and the societies that we know. Looking only a little bit to the past, Dimitrios, I would like to say that Europe has been there one time. and it's the paradox of history, is that when European tourism was really reignited back 70 years ago after the Second World War, infrastructure was completely destroyed. We didn't have operators. There was absolutely no transportation mode and so on. And there were some, wise men and women that starting with a common peace project. And I think coming back, to your points of humanity, resilience, solidarity, and leadership, this goes back, to the center point of the conversation that we have, is how do we unite the tourism industry looking in the same direction and not trying to compete at this very moment of existential threat. I think we're going to manage, and I'm not going to be like a naive optimistic, but I see green sprouts happening. But I also see that people needed that kind of bad hit to wake up to. And the two elephants in the room that we were talking about is climate change, or the term of sustainability. By the way, the term of sustainability has been there since the 1983, so it's nothing new. But who did really apply that, to all the processes that you commented before in re-engineering, in redesigning, in refocusing, reigniting, product development, and so. And then we have the catalyst for that. And I'm gonna stop there and passing the floor, with your permit, to Antonio, because he's the expert on technology here. Is how now we have the tools also to provide that knowledge and to make the process not only more sustainable, but also more accessible, and creating, much more synergies between destinations and between demand and supply. I thank you, Dimitrios, for the introduction, and I pass the floor back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Eduardo. Thank you very much. I think wise words in terms of collaborative strategies and knowledge sharing. And I think if we've learned something from the COVID era, is that we all need to bring all our resources together and all our brains together to actually see how we can collaborate with all those things. And I'd like to thank you for your leadership in terms of the European Travel Commission. Has been a beacon for hope and a beacon of clarity and a beacon of collaboration. And you've brought a lot of partners into the game and to the discussion to actually have one approach, because tourism and travel and all our ecosystem requires one approach that's based on evidence, that's based on health data, and bring everything together. Before going to Antonio, I'd like to go to Jing to get the information from China, and because China got earlier into that and has got some drastic measures to actually deal with COVID. And I think a lot of innovations are coming from China, and I can see a lot of progress with the vaccine, and I can see a lot of information that's provided. And I've got to confess that when I really want to see what's happening in China, I look into Jing's social media, and I can see pictures. And I remember seeing the first coffee places opening and the measures that they were taking, and I was sharing it with all my friends in my social media and say, look, if China is doing that, we need to learn from China, because they're earlier in that kind of learning curve. Jing, how's the situation? What have you learned from the situation in China? And also, Wolfram probably had an earlier profile from you. Now, tell us, what is your current role? Because I know that you're Vice Chancellor in the new university that's dealing with hospitality and tourism.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me to this session, and I will be very happy to share what I have seen here in China. And so everybody knows that China really suffered a lot from the first half of this year, and we have been through all the things that you are experiencing now, the empty cities and the business is going down, and the people were so panicked about the future. So we've been all through this together. But now you see that China comes back. And right now we are in the long holiday of our national holiday and also the mid-level festival. So it's an 8-day long holiday. And so I got the recent data from the China Tourism News, that for the first 4 days of this holiday, there are about 425 million Chinese tourists are traveling in the country, spending about 312.2 billion yuan in this country. So it's very obvious to see that the domestic tourism almost come back in mainland China. So I don't think that there is a need to highlight that how Chinese travel around the world and how much Chinese spend around the world. But it is very worth noticing that there are less than 10% of the Chinese residents have experiences of traveling abroad, which is to say that the China outbound tourism still has enormous potential for growth. That it is predicted that by 2027, the passport holders of mainland China will reach 300 million, or let's say 20% of the Chinese population. And I have conducted research between July and September on the motivations and preferences of Chinese outbound tourists in the post-COVID era. And we took the Thailand as the case study, and through an online survey, and we have got 803 effective respondents to explore whether Chinese are still confident about traveling abroad. The reason why we chose Thailand, because Thailand has been the most popular destination for Chinese tourists for 5 years. And even in the beginning of this year, the Tourism Authority of Thailand predicted that Chinese tourist arrival may reach to 12 million before they see the pandemic come. So when we ask the questions whether Thailand is the most preferred countries to travel after this COVID-19, the answers of yes or no respectively count for 27.9% and 22.54%. That you say almost half of the respondents still remain unsure of traveling abroad. And when we took a deeper look at the segments of the respondent aged between 25 to 44, and this group of people are more likely to travel to Thailand after the pandemic. And also we did the comparison between the experiences of traveling to Thailand and whether they are still willing to go. And we found out the segment of respondents who have traveled, worked, and studied in Thailand are more likely to travel again after the pandemic. And we also searched about the relationship between the income and also the willingness to go. We found out the middle-level income segment of the respondents who earned more than 5,000 to 7,000 yuan per month, and between 7,000 to 10,000 yuan per month, and also even higher than that, are more likely to travel to Thailand after the pandemic. This is very interesting. And also we found out the important factor of these respondents. And they all believe that they also concerned about the diagnosis and treatment protocols made by the government, and also the preventive measures taken by the government. And many of the respondents still believe that the surveys and warning identifiers written in Chinese and the staff competent in Chinese speaking are very helpful and important if they want to attract Chinese tourists to go back to Thailand. And also, I want to share about how the Chinese tourists search information about traveling to Thailand after the pandemic. And it's very interesting to see that the willingness of traveling to Thailand after pandemic has a very significant positive relationship with the information obtained from travel agencies and word of mouth from the friends. And but very significant negative relationship to receive the information from the website of the government and also OTAs. So this also draw the attention to the government authority to update their information and to consider to build closer connections with the social media users. And we found out that respondents who like using the overseas platform to search information have extremely significantly positive relationship among one and another, and also as well as the China-based social media, meaning that the Google users are also the audiences of China-based social media. For example, Bilibili, TikTok, Microblog, Red, and QQ. And it is very interesting to see the users of QQ and the users of WeChat are very different, partly because the QQ users are much younger and are much more informative towards the overseas online platform. So we take Thailand as a case, and we found out the more well-educated, young, and mid-age tourists with mid and higher income earners and with more experienced tourists are more likely to travel abroad after the pandemic. So I hope that these findings are interesting for you.
Thank you very much, Jing. You're bringing us an optimistic kind of outlook from China, and you are confirming what we've seen all along, that people desperately want to travel. And people really want to go back to their realities in terms of going and see their families, their friends, and also have some recreational activities. And I think the situation in China is that the public listens to what the government is saying, and they are taking the restrictions very, very seriously. I've seen that from my friends, and I've seen that from my students. The situation we find in some other places is that the public does not take so much the restrictions, does not take seriously the restrictions. And I think we need to learn from China on how we can listen to the authorities and we can listen to what they've got to say and restrict ourselves for a short period of time in order to be able to deal with this situation in the future. I know that Eduardo has got to leave in a few minutes, but I also know that he has got a lot of experience from China, and part from the European Travel Commission brief is to bring Chinese travelers over to Europe. Eduardo, would you like to have a question for Jing, or would you like to say a few words because you have to leave?
I just maybe just send my willingness, to deepen the cooperation between the Chinese authorities and also with the Chinese trade, towards the spirit of the EU-China tourism year back in 2018. I think those bridges still standing there, it's just they're being closed only. So the only thing that we have to do is to explore how to mitigate disadvantages and create advantages. And what I'm thinking, it's about, through proper digitalization, how can we facilitate visas? How can we facilitate also access to information in Chinese language? How can we make the experience in Europe much more Chinese friendly? And I know Kotri and Professor Artel is doing a lot in that respect. But, how can we also crystallize that in real product development too, which is not adapting what we have here in Europe for the Chinese audience, but really being a pure Chinese-driven experience. And this is where we see, and I see personally, a lot of collaboration points with Fujin and, with the further industry in China and also in the rest of the Asian continent. I have to say that China will be, as I've been repeating for years, it's going to be the war is still shifting to the east. And we have not only to admit it, but we have to also embrace that change. The population gap between Europe and Asia is so big, and also the young people will be probably the ones that will apply all the new theories that we are presenting today, and they will have the practice in the near future through technology.
You're absolutely right, Eduardo. And the thing is, when you get involved with China, you just realize that the young Chinese are so much involved internationally, and they're using so much technology, and technology is much more prevalent to what they do. I mean, now in China, you hardly see anybody paying with cash. Everybody is paying on applications on their mobiles, and they are doing all kinds of things that that really surprise me, even me, when I'm traveling in China, because of the level of technology penetration. And I think you're absolutely right. All the bridges that are still there, it's just we don't allow traffic through the bridges. But I think collaborative strategies and engaging in knowledge co-creation between all the partners, it will be absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much, Eduardo. And I think we can, and let me say goodbye if you need to go in the meanwhile, and see you soon. And let's go to Antonio, Antonio and I, we've been working together for many years on his previous kind of life in Chengdu, and we've been pushing for smart tourism for the last 10 or 15 years. So he's got an incredible amount of experience on those things. And also what Eduardo said was, I could see that Antonio was smiling, that when there's no storm and when everything is fine, nobody really wants to break, to fix something that's not broken. This is the expression in English, really. But then when we've got a crisis situation, everybody's coming to us and say, fix it fast, kind of thing, right? And it's a good thing that we are developing the tools for many years, but it will take a little bit longer. Antonio.
Hello. Thank you for inviting me to share my experience with you all. And I would like to share the screen, if I may, to show you what we have here, or what we are seeing here in Spain. Let me share this one. Let me. Okay. So first I have to. This is the first time I use this thing, so excuse me. And now I have to do this. And let me share. Okay. Are you seeing the presentation?
Yes, Antonio.
Okay, wonderful. So this is what we had before. It was a very prosperous industry. We were really happy, but we had this. We had over tourism. We have public services that cannot cope with the amount of people around our cities. We had the beaches absolutely full of people. We have so many wastes. We have a very severe impact on the environment and on people. And you said before, we will not return to the past. This is the past that we have not to return to. This is really concerning. And this was part of the impact, of the negative impact of tourism worldwide. As you know, Spain is the second largest tourism market worldwide. And in Spain, we had several different experiences around tourism, and few of them were really negative because of our tourism. So this lockdown made us think about all of this, and I think the mind of the European or citizens worldwide, and above all the tourists, change. So now we are really concerned about data. We are checking all the things. We have made a master on digitization in the last few months. So now we know how to manage the information better than we used to do. And we are seeing a new digital tourists, more digital than ever. And we know how they are sailing through the waves and sharing information and getting information. So now we have a lot of data on what they really think, what they really want, which kind of destinations they want to be in, and how they want to live their holidays, and which kind of destinations, what kind of values this destination has to have in order to go there. This is has a lot to do with the hygienic procedures, which is really important nowadays. We really care about that, but we do care about the environment. This is something that we are noticing here in Spain, that our tourists, they are asking us about the impact of the tourism sector in the environment in Spain. We have seen so many nice images of how nature returned to life during the pandemic, during the lockdown. And now I think we are more concerned than ever about our own impact on the environment. And yeah, we really are focusing on these sustainable goals, and we really think that technology can help us to achieve all these goals. Following the path of the United Nations World Tourism Organization nowadays, that they are focusing on innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystems, so that we can change the whole thing, the way we do tourism around the world. We are advancing in smart destinations. Mostly in Spain, we have a Spanish smart destinations network, and we are more than 80 different destinations in Spain, and around 50 different companies supporting these smart destinations through technology and through innovation. Of course, we have to create content and this capacity building on innovation and digitization in tourism. We need people with these new skills. We need people that can face the technology as a friend, not as a threat. And this is really, really important if we want, as you said, if we want to depart to a new future. Regarding the technologies that we have seen as the most important nowadays for this new feature of tourism, we are investing a lot in 5G and Internet of Things, so we can catch all this data. We are investing in artificial intelligence, so we can do proper data analytics. This is really important, not only for companies. Now we are seeing how destinations are really, really interested in having their own dashboards, so they can do the data analytics on what's going on the destination, on the territory, because of the governance, because of the promotion, because of the environment, because they really need to see what's going on out there, what the other destinations are doing, how are the or what are the tourists thinking about them and about the others, which are the values that the tourists are looking for, so they can start working. We are now working on many different strategic plans for destinations in Spain and in Latin America, and we are basing all this strategy in data analytics, because we really need to know the data if we want to have the knowledge to act and to do the proper things. And we are investing a lot in blockchain, which is a technology, it's a tool that we really consider key for the future in tourism. We are developing things for multimodality in blockchain. We are creating voluntary market of CO2 emissions in blockchain, so to make it really transparent and really useful for people. And of course, we are using blockchain to invest in health, because travelers now need to travel in health. They really need to have all the data, so that when they can move around the world, if they have any problem, they can show their medical records, and any doctor in any place in the world can treat them in the right way. And of course, green tech. We're talking about sustainability. We are talking about the environment. We are talking about how we are treating the world, and we are seeing how people are really now investing in green tech, controlling the emissions. As you know, the President of the European Commission has said recently that we have to finish the CO2 problem, the emissions problem in Europe. So the tourism industry in Spain is really concerned about this. And for instance, in the Canary Islands region, we have a law that all the companies are compulsory, they have to compensate and to reduce their carbon footprint for the needs in the next years. So from 21 in advance, they have to take care, they have to start reducing their emissions, and they have to start compensating their emissions. So these technologies, the artificial intelligence, data analytics, 5G and Internet of Things, blockchain and green tech, I think these are going to be the key technologies for the next future in tourism. And with this, I give you again the floor, because I think if we can share our expertise, is much better.
Thank you very much, Antonio. That's fantastic, and you confirm all that the technologies what they bring forward to make sure that we manage the situation during this terrible disease. I know that you were doing this pilot in the Canary Islands, right?
Yeah.
And you had this application. Would you like to share some information about this?
Yeah, it worked. I mean, that was fantastic. We showed the world how it's possible to have the results of the PCRs in origin and put it in
So for those of us that they don't know what we are talking about, can you just explain what you did, right?
Yes, we created an application called HiCar, and it's based in blockchain, and we use also encryptions and a double authorization system. So we took 3 different technologies from the financial world, and we brought them to the health and travel world industries, and we mix it up and we create HiCar, and it's an application where you can safely take all your medical records, so you can travel around the world and you can show it when needed, and as well you can put them you can put it in it the results of the PCR test when traveling. So if any country asks you to have these results, this green PCR before traveling, you can store this information in your application and you can show it through QR, and it's blockchain, so it's really secure. You can trace all the data. You can trace who, when, and where introduce this data in the platform. So it's really safe, and it's really safe for governments. So the United Nations World Tourism Organizations back in last May backed this application app. So we are doing it in collaboration with the UNWTO now, and we are talking with different governments, and we did this pilot project in the Canary Islands in July, and it worked properly, very, very well. So
did the consumers like it? Did they use it?
Yeah. We had around 100 journalists from all around the world. So they download it, they put all the data. We do the checking of the personality so the profile was not a fake profile, and they authorize the clinics, the labs, so they can upload the information to the application, and it worked properly. Then when they moved during traveling to the Canary Islands, and in the Canary Islands, when they enter in the restaurant or in the hotel, they can show for 3 days. They can show the green QR. So they could do it. They were healthy.
Yeah. Fuzing, the Chinese government also used an application to see a green screen if you were safe, and affect a lot of people coming out of Wuhan, and they could see that they were safe. Do you know how that operated and how successful it was?
I'm not sure that how one system is linked to another system, but almost all the citizens were required to report that what's happening every day. For example, where you have been and whom you have in touch with, and your body temperature, and also whether you have got friends or visitors from overseas countries. So we need to fill in some table every day and to submit, and then the system will track our geography, our location, and then they will create kind of green QR code to identify that we're safe.
And is this for every Chinese, or is it only for those people in Wuhan? Did you have to do it in Chengdu?
Yes, yes. And I think that I'm not sure about all the companies, but for all my friends, no matter they are working in the companies or they are working in the universities, they are all required to fill that table every day with their mobile phone. There are several applications that some of them are easier to operate and some of them are a little bit complicated. For example, I'm using 2 applications. For one, they save all of your information and you just check. If there's no update, you just submit. But for another application, you need to fill in the form every day.
Okay. And that's a way of kind of tracking people and tracking where they've been and how close they are. And of course, I guess they cross-tabulate with where this mobile is. So the information that you provide is, of course, true, but also it's cross-tabulated by geolocation and time location and also proximity, I guess, to other mobile phones and other applications. Because if you spend something like 8 hours in close proximity to one of your friends, I guess this is the system can track and can actually say that, Fu Jing was with Dimitrios for 8 hours yesterday. So if one of us is affected by the virus, the other one is in high risk. Yeah? Antonio, did you? Yeah?
Sorry. Yes, if I met you for 8 hours and you are obviously someone from another country and I have to report. And also, I have seen that one of the application is linked to another one. So correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not the technician people. So I went to the hospital during the pandemic in March and April, and I reported in my application every day. But when I scan the QR code of the hospital, and I found that they are connected. The hospital, the system of the hospital identifies immediately that all my information's on that application, and they found that I'm safe, then they let me in.
Okay, and this is the beauty of China, if you like, where all the information is centralized and controlled in a way, but at times like that, it brings everybody together. I'm not sure if we could do that in Europe, and if we can bring all this information together. Antonio, I guess you've looked into GDPR and all the privacy laws that affect in Europe.
Yeah, this is quite a matter in Europe because of the privacy of the data above all regarding health data. We can track people, but in an anonymous way, except if these people has been affected. So it's a question of public health. So in only that moment you can go directly to that person and say, "Hey, guy, you are affected, so you have to put aside." But regarding the data, is quite a problem. Let's say that is something. But it's something that I don't think that should be like that when we talk about health and when we talk about public health. So the hiker, it's very private. It's really private. It's in fact we are the managers of the platform. We don't know which kind of information people has put in the application because it's really private. We cannot do market with the data of our users. But regarding the PCR and the green and red code, above all the red code, when the code is red, we have to notify to the authorities, and it's law. So it's the only moment when the privacy is not the first thing, because the public health is the first thing. We have to take care of each other. And it's the only way we can notify the authorities that these people or this person is infected. So we have to do it.
This is a major issue. I mean, there's a situation in the UK currently where a member of parliament traveled after doing the test, and then she was diagnosed with the coronavirus, and then she traveled 400 miles back to Scotland, knowing that she had the virus, and that's really dangerous or criminal. But I guess, and I guess this is the personal responsibility that we all have to take in terms of looking at ourselves and looking after other people. And having seen what happened yesterday with the American president, that's also a very scary situation if you've got to put in mild words. And I think, having said that, I think a lot of people now are realizing is that there's a price to pay for the liberty of traveling, and to make sure that the authorities are managing this situation effectively. And I guess myself, I wouldn't mind providing this data and ensuring, first of all, that I was safe, and if I would spend time with someone who's affected, that I would be notified, but also that it will give me, it's effectively a passport. If you see it in a different way, it's effectively a passport. We know we need to have a passport to travel, but we need to have that kind of passports if we do. My main concern is that whether the PCRs and all the other tests are reliable enough, because we've seen a lot of situations where the tests were not reliable enough. And I know that a lot of colleagues in science are working very, very hard in creating safe tests. But until that, even the safety of the test is questionable.
Yeah, everything, even the vaccine is questionable, because the vaccines are not 100% reliable. So it's any vaccines. I mean, it's health, and it's chemical, or it's biology. It's a biological thing. But the more reliable are the tests, and the more rapid are then we can start traveling in a safer way. The sooner, the better.
I think what we see around the world is a lot of things running in parallel. I think on the one side, there's a parallel stream of developments on vaccine. There is a parallel development on smart technologies that is helping us to identify these things. There's a parallel development in terms of how we get smarter health systems, that they operate in a clever way, and they can manage those things in a much clever way. And there's also another parallel world of the tourism industry that is learning how to operate within the protocols, and how we bring technology out in terms of touchless interaction. And I know that in tourism, especially in some of the warm countries like Spain and Greece, and we hug each other. I introduce that to China as well. Every time I go to China, I hug Chinese. In the beginning, they find that very strange, but after a while, they like it. But it's kind of engaging in all these parallel kind of ways to deal with this terrible disease, and see how we can take forward the industry. And as I said, after the storm, there's always a rainbow, and we will need to kind of stick together, learn from each other. Everybody needs to give something up, and I guess one of the things that we may give up is some of our privacy, but quite a lot of us have already given that. Anybody who doesn't believe that they are tracked, they need to look into their Google Map record and see how Google knows exactly your location, how long you've been to any other place, and all the rest of it. And a lot of people don't even realize what they do.
That's it, Dimitrios. You know perfectly, as I do, that data are always there, and we have been tracked since ever. So I always tell my students, if you don't want to be tracked, you have to do like the spies in the films. You have to broke your mobile phone. You have to use cash. Don't use credit cards, because we are tracked. So it has no sense that thinking now that we are tracked because of the COVID tracking system. You are tracked already. Come on. So
I think the situation is that we give up a bit of privacy for value. So, we are willingly giving information out. So what we do is we get personalized value to us. So if your mobile knows where you are, then the recommendations for restaurants and the best deals and all the rest of it are coming to you.
That's it.
It's a trade-off. It's a trade-off between things.
Absolutely agree. And I think that health is really a thing you can trade. You have to trade with that. I mean, health is something that is really important. It's the most important thing. So if you agree in being tracked because of restaurants, because of leisure, how is possible that you are not allowed, or you don't allow other people track you because of health?
I think there's a huge issue which we don't normally discuss, which is really about who benefits from this information and how. But that's a very long discussion. And also there's an issue about democracy. It's an issue about civil rights, and it's an issue about how can we all get together and live as a better society. But I think some realizations are going to hit us because we need to operate. And I think when we're looking from a tourism point of view, I think it has become evident in the last few months that the mental health of people depends on tourism. And if we are to maintain our mental health, we need to go back to some kind of normality. We need to be able to work from work rather than home. We need to be able to travel to see our loved and relatives and everybody else that we would like to do. And I think I'm optimistic in the sense that I think we've kind of now start realizing that how difficult this disease is, and that we need to be working together, collaborative strategies and knowledge sharing that Eduardo said earlier, in terms of bringing everybody together and operate. And I can see Wolfgang has joined us again. Perhaps you have a question or a word, Wolfgang?
Yes, so well, I never left you. I was listening intensely and looking at the wonderful presentations. And well, maybe I can share with you from my point of view, what are some of the takeaways from this very good session. I think the first thing everybody is agreeing on, there's no way back. So Antonio showed us the pictures of over-tourism, of ecological degradation and so on. And Dimitrios, you said, well, don't look into the mirror, look through the front screen, look into the future. So I think this is something which is more easy said than done. So, and we have to be all very careful that we are not getting back to where we were before. So in January 2020, January this year, WTO published the numbers for 2019 and the optimistic forecast for 2020. And this was under the headline of tourism is the most resilient part of the global economy. What a mistake so that was. So you could see you take out one plug, you take out mobility, and the whole system crashes. So tourism is not at all the most resilient part of global economy.
Well, let me stop you there for a second, because I think a lot of people have not actually realized what has happened in many different societies. What happened is that after the first lockdown, people start traveling again, but they start traveling in a different way. So Bournemouth, for example, had a fantastic summer because a lot of people didn't get on a plane to travel to Greece, to Spain, to a lot of other places, and they did staycation. So they stayed in Bournemouth, and they all the hotels. It's in fact funny. What happened was that the hotels were hoping that they're going to have cancellations because they could sell the rooms again at double the price or 3 times the price, because the demand for Bournemouth went straight up. Of course.
Yeah, but of course, this is true for rich countries where you have a big domestic market. So, but if you talk to the Solomon Islands or you talk to Maldives, there is no domestic market. There is no alternative.
You're absolutely right.
And for the poor countries, for the poorer countries who are relying a lot on income from tourism, for them, this is not the alternative to switch to say, okay, now we have domestic tourism. So, and if we say, okay, people stop flying, stay in your own country, everything is wonderful. This is a rich country solution. It's not a poor country solution.
It's actually two things. It's not about rich or poor. It's a matter of geography, and it's a matter of where you're looking at. So the Greek islands, some of the Greek islands had a really bad summer, and especially those that relied a lot on planes and things like that. But some of the Greek mainland that would normally not attract a lot of people, attracted a lot of people. And of course, the bigger the country, the more the domestic the market. So in China, in the US, where you've got, in Germany, where you've got big domestic market, the domestic market actually covered a lot of things. It's not the same as international, but it did. And you're absolutely right. Some of the areas, they really had major problems. It's a matter of geography, and it's a matter of the market structure, really. But I think that resilience is something that we still have, and I think a lot of people have not seen yet the impact on other industries like car manufacturing. Because what has happened is a lot of industries have stopped, but people have not realized because they are not involved with these industries. I don't know anybody who bought shoes in the last 9 months. I know very few people who bought clothes, and a lot of those things are going to come down. But people felt the restriction of travel, and that became really evident to them and really frustrating, and that's why we're on the news all the time.
Yes, I agree. I mean, but maybe one last point. Is also listening to Jing, and of course China is also my main topic. So we see that this week the forecast is there are more than 600 million trips, and Jing said more than 400 already happened. So there's one part of the world where tourism is back to normal, and where you can see that actually so 600 million is a lot, but still last year it was 780 million. So it's not totally last year's level, but domestic flights were up 10% because a lot of people go to areas like Yunnan or Guangxi or Sichuan, which are more exotic, where you have minorities, or feel almost like an international trip. So you can see clearly. So when we talk, and this is, I think, the point, when we talk about the future of international tourism, we have to see that in 2019, 1 out of 8 international trips was coming from mainland China. And we will see probably in a few years, it will be 1 out of 6 or 1 out of 5, 20% of international trips will be from China. So what I've found in the discussion, all these discussions we have about the future of tourism, we mostly talk about us, the long-nosed people. So we talk about Europeans and Americans. But we have to include in all these ideas of smart tourism, of more eco-friendly tourism, of more sustainable tourism, we have to include the demand and the interest of the Chinese and also some other Asian markets, but of course most of all the Chinese market. Otherwise, we will not be able to move forward. And this is something which I think in all the discussions we had in the past months has been a bit forgotten, that it's no longer a white man's game. So there is the Chinese market, which has to be taken with us and with the global development, and which will also shape the global development. And I think it's from my take, and Jing will know more about this, there has been also a positive effect that the understanding about the fragility of life and the importance of nature has been increased. There has been a wake-up call for everybody, including China. So that might be a positive point to see that also in the future, this market will join in the efforts to get more sustainable. And because, as Eduardo said, the elephant in the room is climate change. Climate change did not go away. And when we get out of the cage of the virus and we open the door, well, climate change will be there to greet us, and we will have to tackle this problem again. And this is something which we can only do if we look at the whole system. So therefore, Dimitrios, I think it was a very good idea that you also invited a colleague from China, so to widen this topic, not looking only at the European situation. And so I think, again, from on behalf of the organizers of the China Summit, thank you very much to everybody for the contributions and the very interesting slides and talks and ideas you were providing. And so the final word, of course, goes to Dimitrios. So from my side, thank you very much.
Thank you, Wolfgang. I think it's easy to forget that 40% of the population is between China and India. And I think that is a huge market. And also the other thing is that those markets are super hungry to travel. And gradually, as the middle class is growing, we see more demand for traveling. And I can see in China in particular, I think that there must be a correlation between education and travel. The more people that they get educated, the more they want to see the world, the more they would like to engage with everybody else. And they're using technology rapidly and in a very smart way to actually engage with everybody in the world. I had a lot of dealings with India also in the last month, and I can see how desperate people are to travel, and they're already traveling virtually in a way because they knew a lot of things about what we do. And when I said, do you travel? And I said, no, I'm watching YouTube videos and I know all of the things and I'm imagining, but you could see how keen they are to travel and how they're keen to engage with us. Thank you to Fujing for bringing us the Chinese situation, and I'll keep spying on your social media to see what's happening in China and how we can learn from China and take things forward. Thank you to Antonio for bringing us the technological aspect and all these wonderful innovations that they're doing with blockchains and how we are going to develop smart applications to help us. Thank you to Eduardo also for giving us the strategic perspective where a lot of people in Europe have strategically developed correlations and collaborations to be able to do that. Thank you very much, Wolfgang, for hosting this and introducing us, and to John and our colleagues on BUZZ for hosting us today and bring this conversation together. We hope that the rainbow is going to come out soon. We hope that we all meet together and have a small beer or a small coconut or whatever you like to have in your particular things. I have got to confess, I cannot wait to visit Fujing back in Chengdu and have a hot, what do you call it? Hot pot again and enjoy all the things that this wonderful Earth has got to offer us. Thank you very much. CCA. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.